Internationally known genealogist Tony Burroughs has consulted with celebrities like Smokey Robinson and Oprah Winfrey on their family history. His book, Black Roots, A Beginner's Guide to Tracing the African American Family Tree, explains step by step how to get started researching your family's past. He sat down with me to talk about the unique factors associated with tracing the family history of African Americans and the importance of knowing where you come from. I want to start with a little story about my family. My father died when I was a teenager, and I lost track of a lot of people in his family, a lot of contact with his family. But in the last decade, I've reconnected and done a lot of the kind of initial research to learn more about where we're from and what our history is. And I can get back a couple of generations, and then, well, it's really much harder to find the records and to find the facts. And of course, this is a common story for African Americans in this country. We don't have the same kind of access or preservation of records that they do for other populations. And so it's often harder for us to know where we're from and who we really are.
I don't necessarily agree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In genealogy today, most people start off by going to the internet and they either use Google or they use ancestry.com. But they don't know a darn thing about genealogy and how to do genealogy.
Well, that may be my problem.
Yes. No offense. But they don't think about how do you do genealogy? What is the methodology? What are the sources? What are the techniques? And how do I learn how to do that before I start searching for our ancestors?
Yeah.
But most people start off searching for their ancestors without a clue of what they're doing. And that's more of a problem than lack of records. There's records that exist, then you can exhaust in your lifetime.
Yeah. So talk about the things that you should know then. I mean, one of the things that I've found is that going back to the city where my father was from in the South, Natchez, Mississippi, and just kind of fumbling around really and going to places that I know, going to places that seem like they might be connected. It does give you, it gets you to places that you didn't expect. There's a white cemetery in Natchez where I found what I'm pretty sure is the family that owned our family in Natchez in during slavery. But I just kind of came across that, and you're right. I am an amateur at all of this. So what are the things you're supposed to know before you go digging through this stuff?
It's a very methodical process. Genealogy starts with yourself, and it goes backward one generation at a time. So you really start by writing down what you know about the family, okay? Because you probably hadn't written it down before. Then you identify all your living relatives and interview all the living relatives because they have stories in their head that are not on the internet, and a lot of clues, a lot of nicknames, a lot of given names, a lot of maiden names, and all those different kinds of things and events that happen. So you need to interview all your relatives. Then you need to go through what I call the family archives. Those things like the family Bible, the funeral programs, obituaries, discharge certificates, those things lying around the house that you didn't realize, those are very important for genealogy. Once you do that, then you go to the family cemetery if it's located in the area where you live. If it's out of town, then you probably have to wait till you go out of town to visit that. But if they're in town, and you might have the older relatives that were born in the South, but migrated to the North, and so they're buried in the North. And so you go to their cemeteries, you get that information, you go to the funeral home, get that information. From there, you can get death certificates. When you get a death certificate, that lists their parents' names on there, and it takes you back another generation. But it gives you all this other bonus information like Social Security information, military information, next of kin, those kinds of things. From the death certificates, you can get birth certificates and marriage licenses. From there, that'll give you enough information to go to the census and start researching the census. So that will take you back quite a ways. And then you learn about all the other records that exist. And eventually you'll have to get off of the internet and, like you think, go down to Natchez or even go to a public library. Like the Detroit Public Library is one of the best in the country. They have a lot of information for all around the country. So you go to a good genealogy library, kind of exhaust those resources, and then you go on location. So you need to do that like step by step.
Yeah. I mean, it's that methodology, I think, that maybe I'm missing. I jumped ahead in the process or I've done some other things. So of course, for me, this is a lot of fun in some ways. It's this journey of discovery and reconnection, but it's even more important, right? To do this, to know who you are and where you come from. And that's especially true, again, I think, for us as African Americans, because so much of where we're from is kind of taken from us.
I totally agree. Since Africans came to the New World, our history, our culture, our religion, our art, all those things have been stripped away from us. And we've been on a 300-year battle, struggle to try to reclaim that. And genealogy is just one of those, So you're absolutely right. It's so much more important in our community. So it helps us to know where we came from, hopefully why we're here, where we're going. But even broader than that, we uncover new history that's not in the history books. And that helps the broader community and the broader historical context. So you're right. It's very, very important. As well as rewarding and very exciting.
Yeah. You were talking about how much of the public record is now available on the internet, and how many generations of records are available. One of the things that's really interesting to me is the accessibility of things like slave journals and documents from plantations. I found that stuff is more easily accessible, I guess, now than it was in the past. And of course, technology is what's pushing all that really, really quickly forward.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I mean, I started old school and there was no internet, nothing online. So you always had to go on location to get a lot of things. Now you can just sit at a computer desk and get access to just millions of documents that you wouldn't even believe of in the past. So yes, you're right. The internet has a tremendous access, but people need to understand, in spite of the billions of records on the internet, it's only the tip of the iceberg. So many more that are not on the internet. The other thing is that technology is good, but it also is bad because it's a crutch for us, and we don't understand the weaknesses in technology and in the internet. For example, you can go to a website, look for your ancestors, and not find them and think that they weren't there. Not realizing there could be an error in the index. And so that's what's prohibiting your progress there. Or you don't know all the techniques and you don't know what's online, what's not online. So there are pluses and minuses of technology. And the more you understand that, the more successful you're going to be.
What's your advice to people who know very little about their families, maybe as I was for almost 40 years, disconnected from part of your family? How do you get started?
I recommend people get a book on genealogy. Just so happens I've wrote a beginner's guide to African American genealogy called Black Roots. And then they only have to buy it and get it at the library.
Right.
But it starts off from square one and leads you to step 2, 3, 4, and 5. And basically the things we talked about a couple minutes ago. Writing your autobiography, interviewing your relatives, looking for those things around the house, and then going to the cemetery, the funeral home, get the birth certificates, the death certificates, the marriage license, and then the census records. In the old days, we had to write for those. Today, many of those are online, or at least we can apply online. And a lot of that stuff you do really before you go to the internet, Unfortunately, people just start off with the internet thinking that's what you're supposed to do, but you really start off at home.
Yeah. Okay. Tony Burroughs, it's really great to have had this conversation with you. Thanks so much for joining us on American Black Journal.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate it.